Action.
Welcome to Teleforum. Welcome to Ask the Commissioners. Welcome to your opportunity to ask the commissioners. I almost said whatever you want. Let's try and keep it a little bit above board. I'm Eddie Crow. Jack Manning is with me. Tony Amadio is with me. If you want to post your questions on our Facebook feed, that's going to be the quickest, easiest way to do it. This is being live streamed right now on our Facebook, Beaver County Radio, or WBVP-WNBA. It's being live feed as we speak. If you've got questions in the comments section, you can post those questions. And good morning, gentlemen.
Good morning.
Morning, Eddie.
How you doing?
Always good to be with you.
You always say that.
It is. It's good. It's the morning. It's good to be anywhere, I suppose.
Okay.
But it's especially good to be with you,
All
despite
right.
the temperature outside. Little chilly.
I just want you to know that when I first came in and saw you,
Yeah.
I thought of an issue I have at home.
That's a really weird thing to start with, so let's go with that.
I
was going to open with reassessment, but
I have a crow problem at home.
You have a crow problem at home.
This one sucker sits on the top of the roof
Yeah.
and warns all the other crows around,
Yeah.
and they're just tearing my yard apart.
Well, what are they doing to your yard? It's not like they're showing up with shovels and rakes.
No, but they're
Digging?
digging them up. I think they're going after grubs.
Well, they're helping your yard. In the spring, your yard...
aerating.
Yeah,
right?
yeah, they're helping. You do know if you mess with one crow, they will let all the other ones know that you're a bad
absolutely.
person.
Yes.
All right.
You know how I know?
Huh. You messed with the crow once?
When I leave my car out,
Yeah.
they pay back.
Yeah. Yeah, they know. Crows, and this should really come as no surprise, crows recognize, you're talking about facial recognition
Yeah.
on social media. Crows can recognize you. Crows can tell other crows, yeah, that Tony guy, yeah, he's got
smart.
a good yard.
Very
Come on
smart.
over. All right, my first question, but I'll speak to them. They're probably cousins. My first question before we get into reassessment, Jack, you've got a wonderful vest with your name on it. Tony, you've got a wonderful vest, but there's no name on it. Is that a seniority thing, or is that a money out of your pocket thing?
Hardly. It's everybody knows who Tony is.
Oh, is that okay? So
Everybody
you
knew who I was walking around the courthouse, so it was just to let people know who I was, and also to remind my family who I am when I come home.
I
'cause they don't
I learned quite early in my political adventures.
Yes.
Keep your head low.
nothing recognizable,
Keep your head
right?
low.
Being a politician's like robbing a bank. Don't wear anything singular.
Oh, jeez.
I got you. Okay. You know what? That goes a little deeper than I thought when I said it. All right, the first question is always the first question. Where are we on reassessment?
Go ahead.
Not much updates, more than we gave you last time, I think, in terms of raw numbers, but we do have some meetings coming up next week with Tyler Technology to get a full-blown assessment of where they are. But you know the numbers, residential and commercial.
Yeah, was it 78% and
84%.
So it is moving forward.
We never needed a whole extra year.
Right.
But that's the only way you can do it. We needed approximately 3 months.
Okay.
But you have to do that reassessment by year.
To get the tax bills out and to
Right.
get the reassessment and the taxes collected, we needed that full year rather than half a year or some extra months.
So the
stuff.
actual going door to door doesn't take 3 or 4 months. It's the paperwork that has to follow from the information collected.
Both. A little bit of both. But
Okay.
we need a whole additional year to start the new numbers. It can't be in the middle of a year. It has to be at the beginning of a year. So the judge gave us an entire year to get it completed.
All right.
Which is good, because I think it does give us more time that when we do get all the letters out that are going to all the people with all their preliminary assessment, data collection and the estimates and stuff, that'll give more time to make sure people understand how it was collected, educate them on the process, and be able to appeal if they need to appeal.
Have the letters started to go out?
No.
Okay, that's the next
But
step.
they will.
They will, okay.
But we've done our best, and we've done our due diligence with this reassessment. If you recall, originally, the suit came in 2015. It was either November or December. And we took it through the courts. We fought it all the way up to the state Supreme Court, and then COVID hit.
Right.
So look at the time frame. I mean, at the end of 2015, we're going to be going into 22 here, January 22nd, 2022 here real soon.
Does anything move quickly when you're dealing with government?
No, but this is a good thing to move slowly.
Okay.
It really is, because you have the time to get it done properly, to make sure that the industrials and the commercials are done properly.
How much are you talking about moving targets when you talk about the industrials and commercials? Because a lot of things in Beaver County have changed between the cracker plant and facilities being built. What does that do to what you've collected? Do you have to go back and change that?
No, go ahead.
I was going to say, well, people are still doing, every month people are doing appeals and asking for reassessment, particularly on the commercial side.
Right.
I mean, we've continued to have appeals hearings and reviews and going through a legal process with from the mall down to some individual homeowners or people building or putting an addition on and then appealing how much the assessment went. That stuff has still been going on. It's just the overall mass reassessment.
So Eddie, if you snuck a shed in somewhere in between all this,
Crows would do that too.
we know, because we've done a flyover.
Really?
And I think
Okay.
we're going to do another one in the next couple of years, so we'll see the difference.
How do you do that? Do you take overhead pictures and compare to previous overhead pictures?
There's a process in the program, Eagle View, that
The
scans.
program itself will do that for us.
And it basically like the old comic book, find the difference in these two photos.
The GIS mapped everything, every parcel
Okay.
is identified, and you can look at all of those things and assess what changes may have occurred.
Something that I have had brought to my attention, and you two would know this, it's Ask the Commissioners, it's Teleforum on Beaver County Radio. I'm getting word that there are people roaming neighborhoods surveying. Do you have surveyors out with any of this, or is that
Surveyors? No.
surveyors?
We have people
yeah.
canvassing, knocking on doors, leaving door hangers for information, and just simply asking, hey, is this information correct?
But they have identification.
They have vest and identification.
But you don't have
identifies
survey
them.
crews out.
No, any surveying that's going on is taking place by some private entity or business if it's happening.
That's got nothing to do with you
It
guys.
has nothing to do with the reassessment process.
Okay.
Not to our
No,
knowledge.
we would not be doing any survey work
Okay.
for the reassessment.
Well, that was the
process.
question. People will say, well, there's surveyors wandering around. I wonder if that's part of the reassessment.
Well, there's a lot of development and stuff happening. There's a lot of
Right.
pipeline, water and sewer. I mean, there's a lot of activity going on that would require surveys and surveying, and a lot of there's been a lot of real estate is booming right now. There's a lot of sales, and every time something changes ownership or something goes up for sale, a lot of times it requires a survey to really make sure you've got the boundaries correct for that property. So I mean, it could be anything that's creating.
Could be construction, it could be infrastructure,
Right.
water lines, sewer lines, storm sewers.
It could be them working on the same street in my neighborhood for the last 35 years, seemingly. They've got to be done by winter, right?
Well, they'll stop by winter weather. It'll be done by winter.
Well, as long as I can make that right turn to get out to Ohio River Boulevard, I'll be okay. You guys had a commissioners' work meeting yesterday.
Mm-hmm.
What were some of the big topics that got brought up?
Well, the biggest one, and Tony and I and Dan, we've all been getting calls. We had a Zamboni fail on us, and the backup needed some work. So we're getting a lot of calls about the
Who
ice
do you
arena.
call to fix a Zamboni?
Well, it's you don't just get on the internet and
Right.
Google Zamboni and find somebody that'll come in and repair for us. And these are issues we've been working with. We do have plans to replace one of the two Zambonis. They're old. 2008 is the newer one, I think, or something.
That was my first year.
And
So
it's just an issue. I mean,
we bought it.
anybody that's getting automotive work or car work or trying to buy a new car or
Right.
as a used car, you know the difficulty right now with getting those things repaired and parts and chips and computers and all this stuff. And
it's about impossible.
The one
yeah.
we have is
but-
got some serious work, but they're working on it. They should have it back in. But in the interim, there's been probably 5 to 7 days where they haven't been able to cut the ice, and obviously a lot of practices and some games have been canceled is unfortunate. I feel bad
Yes.
for those kids and those families. I mean, that's
Are
why
there-
we do this.
Yeah.
Is for them and for the quality of life that brings. But sometimes things are out of your control, and we're working as hard as we can to get those repaired and replaced.
Are there other facilities that you can move those practices over, or have you tried?
No.
I know ice time's ridiculously difficult. You've got kids practicing hockey at 5,
Yeah.
6 in the
Oh
morning.
yeah, and you always did, and there's a lot of improvements. And the folks in charge down there, Tony Caltori and Brenda Hill and Gretchen Diatra, they're working. They collaborate. Tony has relationships with all the other rinks and arenas. As a matter of
Right.
fact, sent out hey, anybody got a spare Zamboni? And they're all in the same boat. I mean, everybody's in the same boat, and Butler and all the other places that have rinks, even the Lemieux Center. I mean, he's called everybody to try and find help with this, but we just don't have.
Ice time's premium time.
It's
And because you're getting into the season, and I knew when I skated, easily rinks were opening 6 o'clock practices, and just to get some ice time. I'm curious, how much does a new Zamboni cost?
about $90,000.
$90,000?
Yeah,
Yeah.
at least.
Yeah. So a little
Okay.
bit more than your truck, probably.
Yeah, well, you hadn't seen it. I got some new chrome on it. But this is going to sound like a stupid question, and at best a naive question. What's to stop somebody from going out there and doing it the old-fashioned way? Putting a shaver behind a John Deere tractor?
I
mean,
don't know.
Before a Zamboni was invented, they still found a way to to shave.
Question
And
is, how many people got hurt after that was during that practice?
that's something I didn't even think about. It's got to be right because of liability,
Right.
doesn't it?
Yeah, I'm not a Zamboni expert. I know how much they cost. Nor am I
That's a pretty
ice
ni-
arena shaver. I've been to a lot of hockey games
Yeah.
in my lifetime.
That's a pretty
I love to
niche.
watch hockey, but I'm not down there with a shovel trying to shave ice or clean things up. But anyway,
Okay.
I mean, bottom line is we do have a plan. We have a long-term replacement plan. It's 6-month lead time, even when we order
Right.
new Zamboni for it to deliver. So 6 to 7 months. So we probably won't have this new one that we want for a while.
Till about August.
Well, hopefully before then, maybe April or May.
April, okay, we'll shoot for April or May. I'm just mind boggled at the Zamboni. Where will the money come from to pay that?
General fund?
Yeah,
The general fund?
It's not a CARES Act or a American Rescue Plan Act eligible. So, and that's been part of it. We're going through the budget,
Right.
and we're pretty close. I think we'll have our November 18th is our first hearing. We hope to pass the budget for next year, December 9th, I think it is. And that's what we're doing. We're getting all these submissions for the department heads. We're looking at stuff. We're looking at how much revenue loss that we have last year, where we're going to have to make it up from. We do have enough of a cushion that for emergency purposes, things like
Zamboni
we'll
emergencies.
be able to purchase those things and move some stuff around and make it happen.
Jack alluded to before, you have a lot of growth and development going on, a lot of
Right.
buildings going up. So we're able to manage the budget from within. We don't, people are so used to saying, you raising taxes, you not raising taxes. I mean, we haven't seen the exact numbers yet, but I can pretty much tell you, we're probably not going to raise taxes.
Yeah.
The budget's pretty solid. I'm pretty proud of the job that we're doing.
Okay.
We have a great financial administrator helping us.
Very good.
You have a question, we ask them, and we don't just spend money, we ask, do we have the money to spend in this area
That
or
is
that
such a
area?
non-government attitude.
Well, it's very functional, and,
Yeah.
and it's keep making us very successful.
Well, in my almost 2 years now, as you talk about, Corey Troutman, the folks that are doing that, and the other people who we brought in to help us with the CARES Act and stuff, these guys are exceptional. I've been, one of the most impressive things to me is, and coming from private business and working with a lot of chief financial officers and accountants and the stuff, these guys are really good. They understand it. And while I know we get into this debate about you can't run government like a business, the principles are still the same, right? So you control your head count, you control your costs. You control certain things. You treat people the same way. These are philosophies, whether you're a nonprofit or a for-profit business, that come into play. And I think we adhere to those principles that are important to make sure we don't get ahead of our revenue, we don't get out of control with our costs, and we don't have to raise taxes to make ends meet. We've been very good, very diligent. Now, the CARES Act and the American Rescue Plan money helped a lot, because capital projects and things that no county has the ability to fund on their own are there for us to be able to make some improvements, make some upgrades, and switch some money around to make ends meet. So that I'm with Tony. I say our financial situation is very stable right now. We did some debt refinancing when I first came in that these guys had started to work on. That this helped. We had to find money for the reassessment, which wasn't cheap. So I think we did the right things at the right time. And then COVID hit, and we were able to persevere through this. So I don't anticipate any tax increase either for the foreseeable future.
In short,
Yeah.
we're not a tax and spend government.
Yeah. So you make ends meet. You control your costs. You do all the right things. And even when we have to create a new position, again, like business, if you have a chance to expand or growth, or add another salesperson or another location or add another operating line, that's based on the fact that you feel there's going to be revenue to justify that. We do the same thing internally. If a new position has to be created, it's because of some service or expansion of service or need for expanded service. But if something's dropped off over here, we move that resource to where it's needed now, rather than just continuing to add headcount and add bodies to the government. So we've been pretty good at that.
You've mentioned a couple times the CARES Act money. I want to ask you about that, but we need to take a break. News is coming up next. It's Ask the Commissioners. If you've got a question, you can post it on our Facebook. I see a question's already popped up, I promise. We'll get to that. Tony Amadio and Jack Manning are my guests. It's Ask the Commissioners on Teleforum on Beaver County Radio.
Did you ever think you would see a day when nobody showed up for the big city holiday parades or pro sports events? This is Michelle from Laughlin Insurance Agency in Rochester. If nothing else, this past year has taught us that things we never considered possible can happen and that nobody can predict the future. At the Laughlin Agency, your Penn National insurance provider, we give you the ability to protect against loss during unexpected times. Who knows what the future holds? Visit LaughlinInsAgency.com.
They say imitation is the most sincere form of flattery. If that's true, then people must really be impressed with me. This is the Aquaman of Beaver County, Jim Riggio from the Beaver Falls Municipal Authority. You see, at this time of year, lots of people try to look just like me and put on their superhero outfits as costumes. The only difference is, at the Beaver Falls Municipal Authority, we act like superheroes all year round with service that would make any Cape Crusader proud. This is the Aquaman from Beaver Falls Municipal Authority, Jim Riggio, wishing you a festive and safe Halloween. Click bfwater.net.
Beaver County Radio's news source. 1230 WBVP, 1460 WMBA, 99.3 FM, and streaming at beavercountyradio.com. Here's Frank Sparks.
Good morning. As today's forecast is calling for clearing skies throughout the day with a high of 48 degrees. We'll have a complete Beaver County radio weather forecast coming up for you right after we have this look at news. We now know the names of the victims in the deadly school bus accident that occurred on Interstate 79 in Muddy Creek Township, Butler County on Tuesday evening when a tractor trailer being driven by Kareen Deep Singh was traveling north in the right lane and was struck from behind by a Rhodes Transit school bus that was transporting students home to the Hermitage area from the Lincoln Arts Performing Arts Charter School in Midland. The victims who died in the crash are the bus driver, 31-year-old Lindsey Tompkins from Aliquippa, and 14-year-old Bradley Walker, who was sitting in the seat directly behind Tompkins. 13 students were on board of the school bus at the time, and they were students at the Lincoln Park Performing Arts Charter School. State police have said that 2 other passengers were airlifted to UPMC Children's Hospital and UPMC Presbyterian Hospital. Both of those passengers are currently recovering. 2 other passengers on the bus were taken to the hospital for minor injuries sustained, treated, and then released. 1 other passenger was examined at the scene and then released to their parents. Singh was not hurt as a result of the crash. Police are continuing to investigate what caused the crash, but they did report that the school bus was traveling at a safe speed when the accident occurred. The school is providing grief counselors and support staff to help the students. So why hasn't there been any ice action over the last several days in Beaver County? The answer was given at Wednesday's work session at the county courthouse. Matt Durzik has more.
Parks and Recreation Director Tony Calturi spoke at Wednesday's work session about the current Zamboni problems at the Beaver County Ice Arena.
3 weeks ago, the engine blew in the 1992, leaving us with just the 2008 model, a Zamboni. It was having some issues. I reached out to some other rinks, and they gave me a name of a company who they use. There was a consensus Penn West Toyota forklift. So I reached out to them, and they've been working on the 2008 for the last several days. They've tried some new parts, but currently it's still not working, and they were there when I left. The latest, they are borrowing a computer from another facility just before they order a new one for us to make sure that's the issue, and that's the latest update. But we have had no ice activities since Friday.
More details from yesterday's work session can be found at beavercountyradio.com. For Beaver County Radio News, I'm Matt Durzik.
With Republicans on the cusp of sweeping Pennsylvania's statewide judicial races, the GOP is finding more reasons to smile a year away from a high-stakes election in which voters will pick a new governor and a new U.S. senator. Republicans could be considered favored in both contests next year. The party of the president almost always loses seats in Congress in the midterm elections, and a Republican has always replaced an outgoing Democratic governor in Pennsylvania's current political era. Local leaders from Pennsylvania and across the country are pressing for decisive action in the fight against climate change worldwide and at home. Susan Potter has more.
The group Elected Officials to Protect America, or EOPA, is urging world leaders gathered in Glasgow, Scotland, to see climate change as a national security issue. EOPA member Dr. Joel Hicks serves on the Borough Council in Carlisle and teaches energy and public policy at George Mason University. He says world leaders need to recognize that drought and floods linked to climate change will cause economic hardship, which will spur migrations and make countries more vulnerable to manipulation by state and non-state sponsored terrorism.
Climate is going to be the main source of instability as we move forward. With instability, there's an increased opportunity for nefarious forces to really take advantage of people's desperation.
I'm Suzanne Potter.
Here's the Beaver County forecast from 1230 WBVP, 1460 WMBA, and 99.3 FM.
Clearing of skies throughout the day today with a high of 48 degrees. Going to get rather nippy overnight tonight with partly cloudy skies, low down to 26 degrees. Friday, it's going to be sunny with a high of 50. We've got a beautiful weekend ahead, but it is going to be chilly. Saturday, sunny skies and a high of 56 degrees. Sunday, sunny skies and a high of 59 degrees. And then when you return to work on Monday, sunny, a high of 63 degrees. That is a look at the news for now. I'm Frank Sparks, Beaver County Radio News, 1230 WBVP, 1460 WMBA, 99.3 FM, presented by St. Barnabas, and streaming live around the world at beavercountyradio.com.
1230 WBVP and 1460 WMBA and 99.3 FM, presented by St. Barnabas. It's Teleforum. I'm Eddie Crow. It's Ask the Commissioners. Jack Manning is here. Tony Amadio is here. During the news, we were trying to get it sorted out, the crows that are picking on Tony. Don't mess with them, man. They got cousins. I'm telling you, crows are smart. You think, well, they're birds, bird brain, right? No. Crows.
It's okay. I know people.
You know people? The Red Ryder BB gun people? Before the break, it came up a couple of times while we were talking about other things. The CARES Act money and the, what's the other one? The Great American the GARP money.
American Rescue.
How much money is currently in those coffers right now?
Right now, we have $46 million for this year, and next year we're going to get another $46 million. We put it out to the municipalities to submit their projects, and we have 110, I think.
112, two more came in.
112
112 projects,
which is way over the amount of money that if we gave them everything and not used anything ourselves for our county government.
When you get a project submission, that includes the cost. It isn't just, hey, we want that. So
the cost estimate, their cost share, what they're requesting from us. So we set aside $10 million this year, and we would plan to set aside $10 million next year for that. The total of the submissions of the 112 that we got is 66 plus million of all the projects. Now, they knew that they weren't all going to get funded, but that's what's out there. And it is funny because I was thinking about this morning. When we got the 92, wow, we're getting 92 million. It sounds like a lot.
Yeah.
Until you get 112 municipalities and water and sewer authorities that need $66 million worth of improvements or connectivity, and you realize that's not going to go very far.
And I knew it was going to happen.
Yeah.
I mean, let's face it, all the river towns, the infrastructure is
Aging.
130 years old,
Oh, yeah.
at least,
Yeah.
in some places. And you have a lot of I&I, pipes are cracking, the mud and stuff's getting into the pipes. So there's a massive undertaking that needs to be done up and down the Beaver and Ohio rivers, the river towns.
Well, all the way down, what do you call it, downriver cities?
Yeah.
The industries downriver from Pittsburgh.
All along, I mean, the Ohio, the Monong,
Oh,
the Allegheny, the Beaver River here. I mean, that's where the towns were formed.
Right.
Bends and turns in the river, and that's where your oldest communities are, and that's where towns like Aliquippa and Beaver Falls and Ambridge and Rochester. I mean, and Monaca. They're all struggling with aging infrastructure, which I've been pretty vocal. I think Tony's had these conversations as well with our state senators and congressmen. The infrastructure bill is important. That's where these improvements, those 66 million, are going to get financed. We can't do it at the county level, even with the American Rescue Plan. So I'm hoping that infrastructure bill can get done, and that will enable those municipalities and all of that water, sewer, stormwater, broadband stuff to be able to take care of from that fund, so that we can really work on expanding the quality of life and expanding development opportunities in Beaver
Imagine
County.
if you have 3 children in school and the school's remote,
Right.
and your kids can't get online because of where you live.
Right. And we saw that at the beginning of COVID.
Right.
And, you know,
So we're trying to put some money into that, millions and millions of dollars into that, to try to bring our system up to grade here. We still don't know. People ask me, how are you going to do that? You're putting hard lines in, towers, whatever. I said, we have people that'll do that for us.
Yeah.
We just got to be able to fund it and decide how much money is going to be spent on it. Is it going to be 15 million, 20 million? How much we're going to allocate to get that done? But it's something that's just as important as stormwater management, sewage, and water.
Yeah, so it's going to be difficult for us to weed through these. Our accountants are looking through it now just to make sure they're all eligible. And my guess is they're all eligible under the plan by the Treasury guidelines, even though the final Treasury guidelines have not been issued yet.
that was
which
my
is a
next
source
question,
of,
because we had that
of frustration.
talk, yeah.
No, but we know enough to know that water, sewer, those kinds of things are probably going to be eligible.
Okay.
But we're going to have to figure out a process of how we whittle those down and where we can have the biggest impact for the greatest good of the county by going forward with some of these projects.
And that wouldn't be taking 90 grand out and buying a Zamboni.
Zamboni wouldn't be eligible.
They'll probably make us pay back double.
COVID, yeah.
How difficult is it to work through a system where all of the rules aren't explained to you ahead of time?
How about they give you a pot of money,
Right.
and they don't give you the regs. They don't give you what you can spend it on. People know you have this money, and
Exactly.
then they want to know why the money's not given out. We have to make sure
Yeah.
that we follow the regulations, which I'm not even sure are completely written yet. That we follow the rules once they come out before we make a decision to put that money out.
How difficult is it? Well,
You work with what you do based on past practice with the CARES Act money
Right.
back game, of what they allowed and what they didn't allow. And they pretty much said, use that as a starting point. So some of these are kind of no-brainers, we kind of know. But there's always this gray area where there's some things you would like to be able to do, and can you justify that that's a COVID strategy related impact to be able to do that?
is that what the general rule is? It has to address
There's a whole
something that COVID addressed?
In CARES Act, it was all
Okay.
specific to COVID.
This is making my
This-
head hurt.
Yeah.
This one is a little bit broader, right? There's disproportionately impacted. There's blight removal. There's neighborhood revitalization. Those things are eligible, and not necessarily because of a direct COVID response, but they saw how those things were undermined during COVID during the last couple of years. And it's a way to do blight removal, neighborhood revitalization.
I was going to say an ugly
some
neighborhood that
parks,
existed
and those
ugly
kinds of things.
before.
Right. But you know,
At least it's going to have internet.
And, well, yeah, it's still a hovel, but they've got broadband.
you know, exactly. But and we've talked about this before. How broadband was exacerbated because of you know, the impact that not having it
That's when you
had
found out.
on those families. But also we saw how many people, because things were shut down and entertainment was at a premium, gravitated to the outdoors. We saw more traffic in our parks and stuff. So I think we'd all like to throw more money into parks, recreation, playgrounds, and those kinds of things.
All right, if you want to post a question on Facebook, you can do that. If you want to call in with the question, you can do that. 724-843. I'm drawing a complete blank of the number. Matt, what's the number? 1888, thank you. 743-1888. If you'd like to call with the number, we got a call. Go ahead.
Hello, is this WBVP?
Yes, it is.
Yeah, I'd like to ask a question.
Sure.
This is Mike Rubino from the United Way.
Hi, Mike.
Hi, Mike.
How are you all?
Good.
We're doing well.
Hey, Mike.
What I'd like to ask the commissioners is, have they made their final decisions as to the nonprofits in Beaver County, with the Beaver County, with the monies from the feds to help for, you know, loss of income for the nonprofits like other counties have done?
Thank you, Mike.
What other counties?
What other counties have done that, Mike?
Westmoreland is the one that comes, that's been the most public about how they're helping the nonprofits.
Okay.
Yeah, we have not gone through a process to address small business and nonprofits as yet. We do have some money set aside for disproportionately impacted organizations and communities, some of which probably will go to nonprofits, I would think, to help with the upgrade of some services there. But most of our nonprofit money has either come through the CARES Act last year that we did, and also the rent and utility relief that's going on, the homeless shelter that we're trying to get completed,
Right.
and those kinds of services that are all obviously being delivered through nonprofits and a lot of Mike's agencies at the United Way.
Yeah, the United Way is, they take care of a whole lot of other
Right.
agencies is what they do.
21 different cooperating.
So something else just got put on you guys' plate.
Yeah. And Mike, if you're still there, congratulations on your Chamber Citizen
right.
of the Year award, the Linnell Scaff Citizen Award, well deserved. Mike does just an awesome job there managing the United Way.
And that would have never come to mind if Mike doesn't call. These are conversations that you, as commissioners, you have this every day, don't you? You have people saying, well, what about this or what about that?
Sure.
Yeah, they've asked us for reports before we even knew all the regs. We had to do one, was it last month? We had to submit a report.
Who asked you for a report?
Yeah,
State.
September.
The
It's
last
like
time,
they're asking you for a book report and they haven't given you the book yet.
right. And while we know that, is Allegheny County put out similar to what Westmoreland County put out.
Right.
But that's just to get that through the report. That's not all finalized yet because we don't know what we can do yet and what we can do.
Yeah, and a couple things to keep in mind. So Westmoreland's a third-class county, I
Right.
believe.
Yep.
Larger county, different things. They had different reporting requirements and different eligibility requirements that they had to do that we didn't have to do as a fourth-class county.
It seems like you're dealing with a moving target all the time.
We are. That's what I say. Some things are known and kind of no-brainers, but there's just a lot of gray area, and you just try and not navigate too far down the gray area path that you go, uh-oh, we're going to have to pay that back, or that's, and you can't do a recall once you've given money to something.
Yeah, hey,
somebody,
that money, we need that money back.
Yeah.
Has there been any temptation, or has it happened in other places where somebody said, okay, we're going to give that CARES Act money, and if they come later and say, we got to give it back, say, hey, you didn't tell us, we didn't break a rule because we didn't know that that rule existed. It's kind of sneaky, but I've seen situations
From
where
past
that's the argument.
experience, we'll have to pay it back.
When they
absolutely.
decide, yeah.
Yeah.
And sometimes they make you pay it back double because you made an error.
Yeah, it depends. With HUD funding, community development block grants, and those kinds of things, that's where a lot of the frustrating bureaucracy and change of opinions that have come in with a new head somewhere, challenging an expenditure based on
Look
what
at Pennsylvania.
looked like it was right.
They haven't given any money out.
And they're sitting on a pile of money.
Mm-hmm.
Is that because they like the interest is being compounded, or is that because they have concerns like you do?
I had questions about that.
Yeah.
Is the interest, can we charge with arbitrage? I don't know. And nobody seems to be able to give me the answer. They're saying that we can make interest on it. But that's not what the money's for. The money is given to us to give out.
Yeah, our best guess is compared to the CARES Act, which was the 14.7 we got the year before that had to be spent by the end of last year. Obviously, we have a longer time to spend this, so I think it behooves us, again, based on the way financially we've been trying to manage the county, not to just go start wildly cutting checks like it's burning a hole in our pocket to get it out there. We have several years to get this done. We want to do it right. We want to make sure we get the biggest bang for the buck for the greatest good of Beaver County by funding the right things the right way. And I know that doesn't help the entrepreneurs that are out there struggling with their restaurant business or the nonprofits that haven't been able to do as much fundraising as they did before, and they're struggling. I understand that, and we've got a community college that has great needs and capital projects and the like, and different things. So I mean, we're trying to move forward on those. I think we'll pick up some steam here by the end of the year, and we'll start to finance some of those things, and we'll go through this infrastructure portion that we've set aside, and then we'll continue to reassess, continue to look at the guidelines, and look for other opportunities for the greatest good, for the best, greatest impact to the community.
Yeah, like with the CARES Act, we were very methodical on how that money went out. And we're going to do the same thing with the American.
That's got to be a difficult conversation when people know you have money and the money is there to help their organizations or whatever, whether it's the United Way or CCBC or what, to say we've got the money, we can't do anything until we know more stuff, and there's no timeline for you to know the more stuff. You're going to find out when the government says, here's the latest set of rules, correct?
Well, it's frustrating for those people as well, because all the people that got the Paycheck Protection Plan funding and the small business loans that were there, and even in those processes, do I have to pay it back? Do I not have to pay it back? They were constantly juggling several unknown entities trying to make ends meet to keep their business flowing. CARES Act was just one of a handful to a dozen different funding things that were going on, all of which were somewhat nebulous when people were applying for it. But
that's because they didn't want to open their books up. Yeah. You know, the government required that they open their books.
Is that what it was?
That was part of the problem. Yeah.
That was the big part of it.
I got a question here from Ken. Will Beaver County work with Allegheny County? I should just stop at that point.
Right.
Yeah, I know. To reestablish commuter train service as it existed decades in the past.
Right.
And is there a need for it?
We have studies that we do through SPC, which is Southwest Planning Commission, which we're all a part of. Yeah. And we submit and different proposals back and forth between the city of Pittsburgh, the county of Allegheny, and our 11-county region. So to answer your question, yes.
Yeah, I mean,
there's a hyperlink proposal.
Yeah, and I will say, so if you look at the Beaver County Transit Authority, they work pretty closely with the Port Authority in Allegheny County for folks going back.
The commuter, the Route 65 commuter buses.
With the bus lines and stuff. I know I've always been enamored with the idea of being able to go on a train someplace here and shoot down to the airport or downtown.
Right.
I think most of us love to have that. First time I ever had some serious conversations goes all the way back to when Jason Altmeyer was a congressman.
That's way back.
He had plans for, Cleveland to Philadelphia, really carving better commuter and rail. I think most of us need to do that, but you're dealing with the railroads. They've got the tracks.
Yeah.
Putting in new tracks, new lines to be able to do that, because it's a different, my understanding is it's different rail track system sometimes for these commuter things, or even the idea of high-speed lines. I grew up in New Jersey. There was a high-speed line that took commuters into Philadelphia and still does daily.
Right.
It's not an easy an easy lift, and
Okay.
really, based on the lack of progress so far, you can see why it's been so difficult.
It makes perfect sense, but don't hold your breath.
4 words.
4 words.
4 words.
Damn crows, my yard.
There you go.
All right.
Freight trumps passenger service.
Yeah, you're right.
That's
You can make a whole lot more hauling ore than you can hauling
Right.
commuters.
and
But
that's
again-
the bottom line. That's why it's hard to get a dedicated passenger route. I mean,
Dealing with the railroads, we've seen this before with just regular improvements. We've got issues in Midland, issues with the Aliquippa Ambridge Bridge, and dealing with the railroads. I mean, and I can tell you as a former plant manager, they were a pain in the butt for me to deal with running my plant, because they march to their own drummer,
Yep.
and nobody seems to have any influence over them. Senator Casey's been involved in some of these conversations, and they're very difficult.
the Veterans Bridge
Yeah.
could have been done 6 years quicker if it wasn't for the fact that we had to deal with the railroads there.
Is it because they know they can get away with it, so they just get away with it? Or they're the only, when you're talking about
Tell me a
rail
company
travel?
that's wealthier than the railroads. They own all the land.
Yeah.
They're just federally with the legislature, they're just so autonomous that they don't really.
They're bigger than McDonald's.
They
No,
don't.
no, judging by the Baden parking lot, nothing's bigger than McDonald's,
Yeah.
at least
That's a
right
great new.
now.
That's a great new McDonald's, by the way. A
Yeah.
friend of mine owns that.
I read
franchise.
somewhere where the value of McDonald's
Yeah.
is all the properties that they own throughout the world. It's not how much they make on a hamburger.
I never thought of it like that. But as far as railroad goes, how important is the railroad?
Yeah.
We found that out when they were going to build the Walmart and the hill collapsed on Route
Yeah.
65 and shut down the railroads. And it was millions of dollars a day that they lost. Is there anything that you guys wanted to bring up that I didn't get brought up, besides trying to help Tony understand the mind of the crows?
No, and I did mention Mike Rubino, but the Chamber of Commerce Business Year Awards are tonight. There's some really great organizations are being honored. You can go online and probably see that. But Mike being one as their Citizen of the Year, and
Yeah.
a bunch of other organizations. I won't. So you'll have to have the chamber on.
Well,
to do this,
I'm drawing a complete blank. She's a friend of mine who's the head of the
Helen
chamber.
Kissick,
Helen.
yeah.
Helen was on with me last week.
Yeah.
We ran down the list of everybody and talked about the awards, and that's at the Fez, I believe, tonight.
Yes, yep. Yeah. 4
right.
o'clock tonight. So.
Nothing else?
No, well, we're plugging away on the budget and the American Rescue Plan, so trying to do the best we can.
All right, excellent. As always, thank you, gentlemen. Jack Manning to my right, Tony Amadio further to my right. It's Ask the Commissioners. Coming up next is Huntington Business Spotlight. It's Teleforum on 1230 WBVP, 1460 WMBA, and 99.3 FM, presented by St. Barnabas, and might even be able to remember the phone number in the next hour.
Did you ever think you would see a day when nobody showed up for the big city holiday parades or pro sports events? This is Michelle from Laughlin Insurance Agency in Rochester. If nothing else, this past year has taught us that things we never considered possible can happen and that nobody can predict the future. At the Laughlin Agency, your Penn National insurance provider, we give you the ability to protect against loss during unexpected times. Who knows what the future holds? Visit LaughlinINSAgency.com.